Hey everyone, hello, good morning, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Um, just give me a second. I'm just reminding people of the live. How are you? I'm seeing you all, I guess, after 2 weeks. Um, I hope some of you missed me last week. I missed it for sure. Um, I'll give you, there are a few life updates. There are a few things happening in life. Um, so we will talk about it. Um, if you're here, then just leave a comment. Tell me hi so that I know you're listening in. Um, I hope you had a chance to think over the things we spoke about the last time. If I am looking tired and you're wondering if I am tired, yes, I am. I'll come to that as well. How has your Wednesday been? How has your week been? How have the last 2 weeks been? It's been a long time. Keep sharing that information till I put this information about the live everywhere. Isn't it tiring to keep posting about these things everywhere? I'm kind of losing track of all of this. What I do, where I put things up. Okay, does anyone remember what our questions were, where we stopped last time? What were our conversations at which we stopped last time? If you're here, if you remember what we spoke last time, do share uh, what you remember. Yeah, that was a sigh. Okay, so hello, if you're listening in, if you're here, how is your Wednesday going? Let me know if you're listening in. How have things been? I know I didn't share today's agenda. I know normally I do share on my Instagram and Facebook about what I want to talk about every time, but I didn't do that today. I have been a little slow with my social media, and I'm sorry for that, but I'm here. So, for those of you who did attend the live last time and remember our conversations from the last time, there were a couple of posts that I had shared with you all during our live. One from Facebook by Neurowild was the handle name, and that's one of the, like, one of the pages that I follow, which I really love. It's about neurodiversity. The person behind the page is a speech therapist working with neurodivergent individuals, and a lot of what she says on her page has it's quite relatable to the work that I do with dogs. That was one link that I had shared. If you want me to share the link today as well, let me know. I will put it in the live chat. um, the second post that I had shared with you was on from an Instagram account, um, who is a therapist. I think the name of the account is, just give me a second. I don't want to get these things wrong. Um, yeah. So the name of the account was the Virtual Couch Therapy by Patricia, and there was a post that I'd shared from her as well. Right pronounce, yeah, from her as well, which I felt like is a very relevant conversation for us. Um, so we will be discussing both of those things today in today's live. Um, and there was a question that I had come across about, do you feel judged for your dog's behavior, and how do you feel about it? How do you handle that situation? What is the internal dialogue you tend to have if you feel like you're being judged for your dog's behavior? What kind of behaviors are we talking about by our dogs? What is the judgment that you think you seem to experience from others? Do you feel like you have to conform to the social standards even through your dog's behavior? And how do we navigate this space? And I feel like I have had to go through that a lot. So I'll talk about that, and you can share your stories about it as well. So these are three like ideas, topics, discussions that I wanted to have. But apart from it, there was one question that I came across in one of the WhatsApp groups I'm part of, about cooperative care through for nail trimming, and I recently had a client also where we were talking about it. So I thought I'll run you through that conversation as well. So that's the agenda for today. What do you think about it? What do you think about the topics? Um, do tell me about it. We will go over it one by one. But life updates. Life updates. Um, First, and I think we spoke about it in the last live as well, that we may have to move homes, which I think is happening sooner than I thought. It may happen in the next 10-15 days. And I'm having a lot of feelings about it because we might have to leave behind Laddu Lady and Bala when we do that. And I spoke about it at length last time as to why the decision to leave them behind. So you can go and then have a look at that, where I spoke about it at length. Um, but yeah, I'm having a lot of feelings about it. So yeah, one is a move that's happening, and the other is, I don't know if you have seen or not, I launched the Dog Promise Research Club. So we're having our first meetup on 24th March, and we are reading a couple of papers to discuss them. So if you are interested in the Dog Promise Research Club, reach out to me on my Instagram or Facebook, and you can get added to the WhatsApp group and be part of discussions. The point of the research club was, uh, I had had a discussion on my Instagram page with my, the Dog Promise family, the followers, and we were having a great discussion about a research paper, a small passage from a research paper, and I realized that a lot of people are interested in it, in research. Um, and the idea is that we look at these research papers with two agenda. One is, what can we take away from the papers that we discuss for our companion dogs, because not all papers are particularly for companion dogs. Not all papers represent like all kinds of companion dogs in all cultures. But what does it mean for our dogs? And what can we take away from the discussion we've had on a particular paper? So I think that was one agenda of being able to read research papers. The other is to get get our muscles, working, the research muscles working, where we can find credible resources for what we are claiming, but also how can we critically analyze these pieces of research that we have in front of us. Because the we know, we have seen that even science, especially behavioral science, evolves. um, new research comes in place based built upon old research. Old research is, proved wrong, and new things take its place. So it's important for us to build that critical thinking when it comes to research as well. So that was the second agenda. So research club, for that. So yeah, we are having our first discussion on 24th March. We are discussing about how dogs spend their time, specifically urban free living dogs in India. There were papers written on that. So we have picked that, and we want to talk about it. So those are my life updates. That's what's been happening. Last 2 weeks have been crazy, and it has been quite overwhelming. It has been quite tiring for me, specifically. So, which is why you have probably seen me quiet on my social media everywhere. I have not been active. I have not been. I was unwell too. There were about 2 3 days where I was on pain medications as well. So with all that, I think the live took a backseat, which is why I was not there last week. Which is why we didn't do a live last week. And but here I am. We are doing it today. Okay, so that's my life update. That's what's been happening on the back end of Doc Promise and my life in general. And I shared, as I shared on my Instagram today as well, that I think when life gets overwhelming, when we have big feelings, big emotions, when we have a lot happening, it's always great for us to take a step back, take time off, decompress, um, slow down. And I think this kind of applies to our dogs as well. We talk about it all the time with our dogs. One more life update. No, not a life update. One more thing that's happening. I'm doing a presentation slash discussion to a group of uh, professionals who are all training or getting certified to become trauma informed dog professionals. And we will be talking about consent, or learnings about consent and agency. So I'm preparing for that as well. So that's all been happening with me. What's been happening with you? What's been happening with your dogs? Tell me. Let me know. uh, I hope you missed me last week. But barring all of this, I think let's start with the first point of discussion for today, which was cooperative care. And how do you go about mm, working with your dog? And specifically, the question was on nail trimming. So, how do you do that at home? um, I'm not going to be talking about where you need to cut your dog's nails and what at what point. How do you know that? Because there's a lot of information out there about that. But I want to talk about the process of it. I want to talk about how would you want to do this with your dog, where you respect them, you have their full consent, and there is true cooperation and collaboration while you're working with them. If you have not seen on my Instagram and on my Facebook, I had shared a video quite some time back where we were supposed to put eye drops for Zoe, and that was medication that was necessary for her, and we did the cooperative care with her using the same process. And I had promised at that time that I am going to be doing nail trimming for her, and I'll keep you updated about the process. So while I answer this question, I'm also going to be updating you about all of that as well. So, as I go over the topics, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, if you have any ideas from your end, you can keep adding it into the chat, and I will read them, and we can have that discussion here as well. So, first and foremost, update about our cooperative care journey with nail trimming. Um, we failed miserably. We failed. And I think um, it's important for me to share that as well. and also tell you why we failed, what do I mean by we failed, what is my plan, next steps, and stuff like that. Um, so I think when I decided that I want to do the cooperative care journey with Zoe for her nail trimming, um, we did start, and I think I have videos. I'll see if I can share it on Instagram as well. Um, but we were, or rather, I was a little too late to start that, which means that her nails had grown quite a bit, which meant that I was not going to have the time and the space to take it at our pace, uh, specifically at Zoe's pace. So we had to, like, I tried it 2 3 days, and then I realized it's grown quite a bit, uh, and it is going to put undue pressure on me and on Zoe to do this quickly, which I didn't want to do. And I very quickly called off the process at that point. Um, and we were like, we will get this done by others, other professionals, um, and they'll do it quickly. It's going to be stressful, but they'll do it quickly, be done with it, and then I will have time to do this on my own. Um, this allowed for a few things. Um, we didn't have to take the undue pressure uh, to do it quickly, which meant that I didn't need to rush the process with her. It meant that by knowing that I'm going to get it done from someone else and it is going to be stressful for her, I was also very well prepared for how to help her post the grooming session. So I think that is one part of it. The other is now it gives me enough time, enough space to be able to do it slowly and take it at her pace. And if we fail again, we come back again. But why am I saying we're failing? Um, I've had Zoe for 8 years, and she does not like being touched. She doesn't allow us to go beyond her elbows, elbow down towards her wrists and paws. So that has been a no space for her. And we have managed that way for all this while. Um, but I didn't want to continue doing that. So for her, my cooperative care journey doesn't start at paws or nails, it probably starts from shoulder. It's going to be a long process with her. Apart from that, we did get, both types. We bought like the nail trimmers, and we brought the grinders, um, and both. I think the grinders were not comfortable for her at all. She was very uncomfortable with the sound of it, like begin with. But she was okay with the trimmers, the clippers. So we decided that we'll do the nail clippers instead, and we'll go from there. So with her, it's going to be a very long journey with it. So it is a good thing that I decided to take my time about it, for it, right? So I think essentially we didn't really fail, um, but we could we could probably say that, you know we need to take our time, which means that we do things that don't rush us through the process. Now, what does not rushing through process, what does taking your time really mean when it comes to clipping your nails? So if you see the video of the eye drops, if you see the video of us doing the eye drop, administering for her, you will see that we start from the box, allowing her to sniff the box, then get it out of the box, sniff the bottle, then start from like on the head, then the ears, then come to cheeks, and then, just on her eyelids, eyebrows. That is what eye drops look like. But for the nail clipping, how would we do it? And I think the process would be similar in the sense that you start first getting your dog comfortable with touch, on their arms. So if I were to do this for Zoe, I would start off with her shoulders and then move slowly, just few days stay on shoulders and then move down to elbow, then move down to the wrists. I suspect it's going to take a long time. And then once she gets comfortable with her paws, is when we start touching the nails. No nail clippers involved through this process. It's just touch with our hands, being handled. Um, and then move over to using the clippers and do the whole process again, shoulder, elbow. I think we had reached that point when I decided, okay, I don't think this is working now. We need time. She was okay with us putting the clippers on the shoulders, clippers on the elbow, and then we'd slowly come down to like the paw. But it was a no after that. And then you come to the nails, touch the clipper to the nails slowly, and then you would do the clipping very quickly. So if you see the eye drop video, of course we couldn't get the part where I could put the drop for her, but the entire process was a long process, but putting the drops for her was a quick 1 second process. So your actual handling, actual grooming would be a short, like quick process. But how do you know your dog is consenting? How do you know your dog is cooperating through the process? And I think with that, being able to read your dog is so important. And for that, I think taking help of understanding calming signals, your dog's body language. Are they walking away? Do they have freedom to walk away if they want to? When they're walking away, are you taking breaks? These are all very important, which you see me doing in that video. So I would definitely encourage you to go and see that video, and apply very similar principles for other things as well. So I think that would be like a very superficial um, way forward for cooperative care with your dog. But there are people who do this with treats. I have seen videos of people putting peanut butter, on their forehead and then getting their dog to lick the peanut butter and then cut the nails quickly. Mm, there are a few things that can go wrong with that. Um, One of which is if I were to use that with Zoe, and Zoe is a foodie. So she's not someone who would often say no to food. But if there's a boundary she's exercising, and if there's a no that she needs to say, food wouldn't help. I cannot convert her no to a yes through food, if she is saying a no, no matter what, no matter how high value the food is. um, which meant that I could be continuously increasing the value of the treat, so to say, but her no is never going to move to a yes. And that's her boundary. And then what you would do? What would you do if no matter what high value treat you were using, your dog is saying no? And that no doesn't turn to a yes. I mean, when you think about it, and when we're talking about consent, and when I use these words in human context or human relationship context, where I am saying that I'll offer someone something to convert their no to a yes, does it sound like a true consent? Does this seem like, when you offer them something in return and then they say yes, um, is it conditional consent? Is it true consent? Is it true cooperation? Um, Worth considering. And not every time, no matter how high value offer you give, their no doesn't turn to a yes. Then what would you do? Would you forcibly convert it into a yes? Would you force your dog into a situation where they have no choice but to go with and tolerate what you're saying, doing? You see, when I convert this into human terms, it doesn't sound right, especially when we are talking about consent. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound respectful. It doesn't sound like consent. Uh, it's worth thinking about these things. Um, so that's one. So Zoe's example shows that no matter what is the value of the treat you're offering to the dog in question, their no remains a no. So then how do you work with them? So would your peanut butter trick work there? And if it doesn't work, what are you going to do then? So that's one example of a dog. Um, the other example is Sammy. So if I put my peanut butter on my forehead and attempted to clip his nails, I would lose my forehead and a lot of hair along with it. He is super hyper around food, one, but also if he doesn't like something, he would growl slash be ready to bite. So I would lose my hair and my forehead, and along with that, the peanut butter and the whatever it was smeared on. So it wouldn't work with Sammy, it wouldn't work with Zoe, and these are two very, very, very real situations that can happen with dogs. Your dog's mouth on your face can go very wrong. So if that can happen, and if this trick is not the best of the tricks, then I think it's worth wondering what consent means, what cooperation means, what is the function of this peanut butter on your forehead while you're clipping your dog's nails, and is it safe for you? Is it safe for the dog? And does it translate to true consent? These are worth thinking because this is a popular way of going forward and then clipping your dog's nails. Another client had, as I mentioned, like, recently a client had reached out to me talking about, wanting to learn how to do cooperative care because the last time that she was to administer medications for her dog, I think eye drops for her dog, um, he didn't let. And luckily, his body healed on its own, and so they didn't have to struggle with it. But how to be ready for it next time? And so we again, she didn't need the name clipping suggestions. So what we did was we went ahead and we were like, okay, pick eardrops because you get cleaning eardrops. Not a lot of dogs are comfortable. Her dog was not comfortable with ear cleaning. So we were like, okay, we'll pick ear cleaning drops. They're not medication, they're just for cleaning and grooming purpose. But we are picking something where the dog is not comfortable. So we start with something that's low pressure. So you don't really need to do it. You're not pressurizing yourself to make it quick and make it happen 100%. So you give yourself a lot of room to fail, to take your time, to go at the dog's pace, which means that you're going to now respect your dog's um, consent or even agency in that situation. So that was, an idea that we came up with, and then we decided, okay, like, let's start with just letting the dog be comfortable with handling head and ear and inside of the ear, and maybe use cotton, put it on top of the ear flap and inside the ear, and then start bringing the cleaning liquid, and then working through that process. So now you get yourself comfortable with the process of it, and this also becomes like a trust building exercise as well. You respect the dog sees that you're respecting them, so they start trusting you as well, and that can go a long way in the future. So we spoke about this, and I have told her to keep me updated about her process and how things are going. And as I get updates, I will give you the updates as well. So I want the reason for sharing this question, this story, and this way of moving forward is because I want us to look at cooperative care on how can we actually make it cooperative. Get your dogs buy-in into the process. They are working with you in this process, and not that you're creating a distraction for them while you do this. You both are working together. You are hearing your dog's feedback as you go through this process, um, and you build trust through it. um, and we respect true consent from our dogs. And I think that is valuable. um, and I will also keep you updated about how our process goes. We haven't gone a lot further in our journey with nail clipping. um, but yeah, I will keep you updated about it. Your thoughts, what do you feel about the cooperative care? I had a lot of messages pinging. Just let me see if it's anything important. Okay, so many messages suddenly. Okay, so that was about cooperative care, which I wanted to share with you all. Um, any thoughts, if you have, please do leave it in the chat and I will respond to them. With that, we can move to the next one, which is about, before I move to the conversations that I had, left you with the last time, the thoughts that I left you with last time. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was, I saw this interesting video on Instagram, where this person, dog parent, dog professional, I'm not very sure, they were like, a great way to keep your dog engaged, and a great way to keep your dog mentally stimulated was to play this cup game. Have you seen those cup games where you keep treat under one of the cups, and then you get the dog to find the treat, so treat search activity, but like with those cups, and one or few of them having the treats and few of them not having. So you get your dog to think through, and they were like, this is a great activity for dogs, and it's going to be mentally stimulating for dogs, and your dogs are going to look, they're going to be sleeping after such an activity. And great advice, not taking away from the, the advice itself. But I had asked on my Instagram, I had asked you all to tell me if you feel like there was something missing from the entire message. Uh, I talk about mental stimulation, I talk about sniffing activities, I talk about street search as well. But I felt like when I saw this video, I felt like one part of the message was missing. Um, and so I had asked you all on Instagram if you can tell me what you think was missing in the advice. And I think a few of you, I had put a reference image, but that was just a reference image from Google. So I think you, like a lot of you, did take that image and then were commenting on the image. um, Someone said that there was no mats underneath, so that's important. Great point. But what I was thinking about when I saw that video was that it's very easy to make blanket statements. So when I say that sniffing is great for your dog, do it, and your dog is going to look like this, um, we are making a blanket statement about all dogs. And I think it then doesn't account for the fact that there are a lot of dogs who can get riled up with food involved. They can get hyper in a treat search activity. They can get frustrated when doing something like this. Um, if and I think I have made these blanket statements in the past too. But if I were to do it today, if I had to send this message out today, I would be like, sniffing is often great for dogs. You would love, you should try a treat search activity with your dog, but at the end of it, listen to your dog. I think I do this all the time with my clients for sure, because um, there's a more one-to-one conversation there, and it's very hard to do. Like, we don't need to make generic statements there. You want to be specific to that one dog. But I think it's important that when we are talking about statements, it's important that we don't make blanket statements, that we don't do uh, this will help your dog. Um, it's I often tend to say this might help your dog, this might be great for your dog, but at the end of it, you listen to the dog. And if I were to do treat search, if I were to do the same game with Sammy or Zoe, they both would be frustrated with it. They both would get um, uh, like quick in solving, like not really slow down and think through it. The same cup game. But I think if I were to do the same sniffing game with treat, with food in a different way, it works for them, right? So it's a matter of figuring out what works for my dog. We have heard a lot of people talk about lick mats, right? Like where you smear cheese or peanut butter or food inside the licky mats and give it to your dogs. That would frustrate Sammy because he would sit for hours with it, um, not even leaving like a single morsel or like even a small millimeter space with food in it, and he would be sitting with it for hours. So whenever what happens with generic messages on social media, and this is why I think I have moved from short form content on Instagram and Facebook to like long form like this on YouTube, because we can get into nuance in long form when we can talk about it more in detail. And I feel like when I say try sniffing with your dog, it also means go try this with your dog. If it doesn't work, it's not the right one for your dog. There's nothing wrong with your dog. I feel like this is what happens when you make generic statements that this is going to help, this is going to be great for your dogs, or this will help your dog is going to like rest after this. What might happen, what often happens is someone might see it and then go and replicate it for their dogs, and their dogs would not respond in the way you showed it on your social media, and they might think there's something wrong with their dog. What they're not going to probably be privy to the information that their dog is giving them feedback on that activity, that is not the right one for them, so they have to kind of tweak it, change it up, and listen to their dog and do what works for their dog. And I think that nuance gets missed out when we make generic statements. And social media is filled with generic advice, generic statements. And I know I am guilty of having done that. But this is a great place to clarify that whenever you see generic statements made by anybody saying this will help your dog, uh, it's important to go back, read your dog, see what your dog is telling, and if it's not helping your dog, there's nothing wrong with your dog. It's probably the activity that's not right for them. It's probably the environment that's not right for them. It's probably not the way it's being done for them. And this is where someone to help you and handhold you through the process and help you see what are the different variations you can try for your dog, that would help. um, I think one of my client, her dog is now in adolescent phase. She recently messaged me and she was like, "Could this be growing pains for her dog? Could her dog be in pain?" And um, it could be a variety of things where her dog's frustration is coming from. But it is also important to remember that her dog has moved to an adolescent period, means hormones acting all over the place, and just being a teenager. and could be pain too, right? We are not discounting that fact. But when we were talking about what are the ideas where, how we can help her dog, she spoke about a few things that's making her dog frustrated. But at the end of it, it was not like there was something wrong with the dog. It was probably we were thinking of, okay, does this help your dog, does this help your dog, you should try this, maybe you can try that, see what, how it works with your dog. And then we came down to the fact that her dog loves having some toys in his mouth, and then like using that to cope with that big feelings. So I think it's great if we can take the advice. So if I would tell you treat search for your dog, take it and then work with your dog in that process. See what is the feedback your dog is giving you. If I were to try the cup activity with the two street dogs that keep coming home, Laddu and Lady, I think they wouldn't care for it. But the same thing when I would keep put the treats in a snuffle mat, and they loved it. So it's a matter of what works for the dog in question. So I think it's important that we start recognizing this, that when someone says that this is great for your dog, this is something that you would want to do for your dog, uh, a good thing to do would be take it, work with your dog, and tweak the process through your dog's feedback. And for that, I think we need to be very, very clued into our dog, listen to them, listen to their feedback, um, and work with them. Because I think we need to also respect the fact that they know what's working for them, what's not working for them. And if we can have this communication, if we can have this dialogue with them, if we can work with them, it can do wonders for you and your dog. So I think that was something that I wanted to kind of put it out here, because we see a lot of advice being given in a lot of streams. It's not just about dog behavior, it's about everything. And it's great to take it and go from there to what works for you. And what works for you may not be the same as what you would have heard in the advice given on social media, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with your dog or anything in question. So yes, I wanted to share that. And with that, I'm done with the two questions, or two questions that I had. And we can move over to the other bits that we want to talk about. So I think the first one that I want to talk about is, do you feel judged by your dog's behavior? Do you feel like your dog's behavior, um, or you feel like because you as a dog parent need to conform to some standards, some social standards, um, does that put pressure on you, and how do you handle that? So I'll share my story. um, I think about, we are in 2024, so I think about 7 6 7 years back, um, I had come into the bucks way of things. So I was in the ecosystem, um, and I had started studying for, in 2017. Of course, I was not studying. I was just a client for Sindoor. So like, I had heard this information, but I was under the pressure of having my dogs to conform to um, acceptable standards that we see, that we have for dogs. So dogs should behave in a certain manner. Dogs should do certain things, not do certain things. So the behavior took precedence, because I felt like their behavior reflects on me as a dog parent, and if they don't behave in the way that is expected of them, then I am not a good dog parent, or a good dog caregiver. And I felt like what was happening was a reflection on me. And so I needed them to conform behaviorally to the socially acceptable standards. And this went on for a while. So while I was trying to understand where my dog's behaviors were coming from, I was not comfortable with their behaviors, and none of their behaviors was unsafe behaviors or risky behaviors. They were just being dogs. Um, but I was not comfortable with that space of my dog being dogs and behaving the way they feel like they need to in that moment. Um, Cut to when I started working as a professional, it added extra pressure, uh, to a point where I felt like when I would have, people visit my house, and they would know that I'm studying to become a canine behavior professional, but my dogs are behaving in a certain manner. I felt like, there would be a judgment of me as a, hi Lado, sorry, Lado came in between. Anyway, so um when I was on this journey of being a dog professional, it added an extra pressure because it was not no more about just being a good dog parent. It was also about how good I am as a dog professional. So if I there were times when we would go on walk, and um, Sammy would, or Zoe would pick up something on the road, and I felt like that would end up being a reflection on how bad a dog professional I am. Or, we would be at home, and we would have someone over, and we were not very social people. Like, we wouldn't have guests or visitors very frequently, which meant that whenever we would have guests, it was a very, very excitable event for Sammy and Zoe, which means that they would have these big, big happy feelings of seeing someone, who is not their family, the humans. And they would get very excited about it, and didn't like Zoe would have zoomies, she would get very hyper. um Sammy would, if someone's not being attentive towards Sammy, but like being loving towards Zoe, he would bark. And I would have this very strong feeling like I'm being judged, not just as a dog parent anymore, but also as a dog professional. Because, I mean, what kind of a dog professional has a dog who's barking? Or what kind of a dog professional has a dog who is having zoomies and be can't control themselves? Or my dogs, I very with Zoe, I never taught her sit command, but with Sammy, having taught him that, I worked as a dog professional to kind of get him to unlearn it completely, which meant that my dogs wouldn't sit on command. And what kind of a dog behavior professional has dogs who don't know sit? And so I think I battled with feelings of judgment for a long time. This feeling of someone is judging me and saying that my dogs are such a bad reflection of, or a reflection of how bad a dog parent and a dog professional I am. But I think till the point where I was worried about their behavior, um, I was worried about judgment. I think the more I started learning, I started understanding more about behaviors and biosocial psychology of behaviors, where they come from, that behaviors are just information, they're communication, they're indicators. I say this a lot to my clients, that, look at your dog's behaviors as indicators. And so the more I started seeing behaviors as that, and I was relying more on information about my dog's well-being. How how's their welfare? How's their relationship with those around them? How is their relationship with stress? How is their communication with me? How is my role as a caregiver um, evolving? How is their emotional regulation like? How are they feeling? The more I started looking at these aspects and less on their behaviors, as long as they were not risky behaviors, and touch wood, like they didn't have a lot of risky behaviors. um, my relationship with judgment or being judged for my dog's behavior also changed. I think I was no more worried um, of what people saw when they saw my dog's behaviors, because it didn't matter to me what they were seeing about my dog's behaviors. um, it mattered to me how they're feeling, how safe they feel in my presence, how safe they feel in their home environment to be able to act out if they need to act out, how safe they feel to be able to share their big emotions and big feelings and know that they will be looked after if they're having big emotions and big feelings. This was more important for me. So I think when my relationship with behaviors in general changed, I think my feelings or the way I handled judgment of me as a dog parent and dog professional also changed. And I think it was not an easy journey to go from like not caring, go from caring a lot about what people have to say, how people look at my dog's behaviors versus not caring about it. It was a difficult journey, but I think today, where I am today, I think I'm quite comfortable there, because as I said, my dog's welfare matters and what happens behind the scenes matters. And if my dogs are acting out, for me to know what is happening, why is that happening, and how can I help them through this process matters a lot more than how they're behaving when they're acting out or having big feelings. Very interesting. I don't know if you follow this handle on Instagram. I find this person very, very interesting. I really like this person. um, their handle is called Othervarya. And she recently spoke about how her cat was having these big feeling, and there are times when her cat tends to have these big feelings, meltdowns, big emotions, and her cat needs to there's a pattern and there is a way to help her dog through it, her cat through it as well. And I found that very interesting because she didn't see her cat's big feelings as bad behavior. She didn't see her cat's big emotions as an ill-mannered cat. She was able to see her cat's meltdown as her cat's big emotions, and also to see what allows her cat to feel better. She said that, first allow the cat to act out, and then, the cat loves to sit on her lap, and then, have the head under her chin and then just be held. um, and that was her cat, and I loved it. I loved when I read that, because she didn't care what people would think about her cat's behavior. She didn't care if someone's saying that her cat shouldn't behave this manner, because she could recognize that her cat was having big feelings and her cat needs her to be the support system. And I think I transitioned into that through my journey as a dog parent and a dog professional. And now, where have reached today, my dog's behaviors don't, I realize now that it's not a reflection of me as a dog parent or a dog professional. If anything, if my dogs behave in so-called bad ways, and are ill-mannered, uh, I would say that they're probably safe enough, they feel safe enough to authentically express how they're feeling in that moment in my presence. And they don't need to feel like they have to perform or mask or suppress their emotions and their behaviors because they don't feel safe enough. So I feel like that, if anything, it's a great thing for me, I guess. Today, I feel great if my dogs can feel like they're safe and they don't feel consequences of their behaviors around me, and they feel safe to be their true self around me. uh, I feel great about it. I don't feel judged at all about it anymore. But it was a journey. So that was my story, how I feel. The original question was, do you feel judged for your dog's behaviors and how do you handle it? And so this was my story. about the same. Um, so yeah, that was the next one. I think I did want to talk about a little bit about what's happening in the house, because it's crazy with two street dogs and one companion dog living under the same roof. And it's very interesting. So in the last couple of weeks, we kind of changed the layout of our living room. There was a very specific reason for us to do that. So I'll see if I can put in a video of this. But I had, at the entrance, there was very limited space for entrance, but also there were two couches right at the entrance of the house, and lady would often occupy one of those two sofas. But now that it has started getting hotter in Bangalore, she was choosing to sleep on the mat, the carpet between these two sofas, which meant that she was occupying the entire, like there was no space for anyone to enter the house, any of the other dogs to enter the house without passing by her. And she is extremely not okay. She hates it. If anyone is entering the house, she hates it. So she starts growling at Laddu or Zoe, and to a point of like growl and like bark, like she would go like that, almost to tell them back off, like don't come close, don't take another step closer. She would do this, and it would happen. So like initially it would happen, she would sit on the couch and she would do it, she'd like growl and then tell them to back off, and then they would come in, take a little longer route through away from her, and that was fine. But when she would like occupy the entrance of the house, Laddu was getting fearful of entering the house. There were a couple of days when he would sit at the threshold of the house because he was finding it very hard to enter the house. And so the first thing I would do when this was a layout of the house is I would constantly stand in between Lady and Laddu and like guide him through to enter the house, so that I'm kind of reassuring both of them. I'm telling Lady, okay, relax, don't worry, I'm here, and they're not going to come towards you, but also to Laddu or Zoe, you can enter, I'm here, she won't do anything to you. So there was a lot of reassuring happening, and like creating distance, standing as a barrier, splitting between them. But we changed the layout because I felt like it was not allowing a lot of room for anybody to enter the house. So we wanted to create, like, open out the entrance a little bit so that nobody's feeling trapped or cornered or feel like they are not able to enter the house. So we did that. And that worked for some time. But Lady continues to like growl and bark whenever Laddu is entering. So there's a lot of, like, the moment I hear Lady growling, I know that Laddu has come home, and I quickly get up and then I kind of split between them. And it's very interesting. It's just a matter of one hand signal sometimes, matter of like, there was one day I sat next to Lady and then Laddu entered and she didn't care. And it's quite interesting to me that how much of an impact reassurance can make for our dogs. And it's quite heartbreaking also that a lot of times when our dogs need the reassurance, a lot of us don't show up for our dogs, really physically show up for our dogs and be there, reassure them and help them navigate through these difficult situations. So I think that was something that I wanted to share because that's been happening. um, the reason why it continues to happen, I think, is because, and it's very interesting that this only happens with Lady when they are inside our house. If she's inside our house and she's the one who's come before Laddu, this happens. But if Laddu has come before Lady, she doesn't seem to care about it. um, and it only happens in our premises. So I have a suspicion that it could be because she feels uncomfortable and feels kind of cornered, unable to go anywhere when he's entering. And that's not the case on streets. Initially, I felt like they may have had a fight in the night sometime when they were outside, and that kind of has lingered on, and then they just don't like each other anymore. It might still be the case, I don't know, but they tend to hang out outside quite a bit. They love to play. They love hanging out. They love running around, exploring together. So my suspicion tips over to the point of maybe it's just not enough space for them to just be like, don't come in my face and don't come towards me. um, so yeah, I think, but splitting is working so well, just getting ladies attention off from Laddu, because I feel like once she sees him coming, there's a lot of like fixation at him as well. um, and with Laddu, it's a lot like he is also very mm, insistent dog. Like, he would continue to do it if he wants to, but Zoe is gets scared very easily. So one growl from lady and she just doesn't take any route in the house where ladies around. So she kind of goes around and takes longer route if she needs to, but like never goes within her radar. And I feel like that's quite heartbreaking. And so I think whenever Zoe is walking around, and especially when I know ladies in the house, I kind of walk with Zoe and then I'm like, okay, I'm creating distance for you, you can come here, you can come along. There's a lot of reassurance that we're doing. uh, and it might sound like a lot of work, but at the end of it, it is a matter of relationship building. And it would break my heart if my dog is wanting me to show up for them and help them through a difficult situation and I ignore it and not show up for them. um, so yeah, I wanted to share that story as well. The I feel like reassurance is such a powerful thing. I have experienced it myself as an individual, and I know that it can be very uh, it can be great to have someone reassure you and support you through a difficult journey, a difficult situation. And why not for our dogs too? So I wanted to share that as well. So these were the stories that I had for you. There were the two posts that I wanted to discuss, and I think I'll try and bring them up. I need to find them too because I don't have them ready right now. Do you need me to share the links, or just talk about the topics in in the two posts? I have taken such a long break that actually I haven't sat on the system for more than a week, or probably longer. I don't even know when was the last I sat on the system and worked. I'm just trying to log in and find that for you. New Neurowild. I would definitely suggest you to follow this page on Facebook, Neurowild. Um, it's by M. M is a speech therapist working with neurodivergent individuals, and she is neurodivergent as well. I'm trying to find her post, but her post basically talks about mm, comparison sunburn with another stressful situation, right? And I think that was such a great comparison. Um, Let me see if I can find it. Not very sure. I don't know how, you know, Facebook works anymore on this. Okay, I'm not finding the post, but I will leave it in the comments. Yeah, I will leave it in the comments probably. But it was a great comparison of how, the sunburn to difficult situations. And um, what she said in the post, and I'm paraphrasing all of this, is that when you when you know that you're going to get sunburned in a particular situation, you do a few things. You firstly try and avoid getting sunburned. So you try and not put yourself in situations that are going to cause you sunburn, but also find ways to prevent the sunburn, find your ways to treat the sunburn after it. And nobody is going to downplay your sunburn. Nobody is going to say, oh, expose yourself and get sunburnt. And the more you get sunburnt, the better you're going to feel, the 10th time, the 15th time, whatever that means. And I felt like this was a great way of talking about stressful situations. And we were talking about this the last time, and we were talking about it as, you know, um, we were talking about it from the point of um, escaping versus actively avoiding certain situations. And I feel like the sunburn example was a great one, where if you look at stressful situations, overwhelming, overstimulating situations for our dogs, like you would look at sunburn, then you would go into it thinking about, okay, is this really necessary? Do you really have to go through this, um, situation? But also, how can you help your dog through the situation? How can you ensure that this will be least stressful for your dog? Um, how can you help your dog post the situation so that they don't feel the full effect of stress? If we looked at stressful situations like a situation that can cause you sunburn, that would be great. So I think that that was a great analogy of looking at stressful situations. Neurowild is the name of the page, and I will link the post so that you know what I'm talking about. It was a great one. I really liked it. I felt like that was a great analogy. Hi, Priyam. We spent like 2 hours prior to this talking and chatting, and you're here again. Hello. Um, And Varun says it's nice to be back after a short break. Yes, it definitely is nice to be back after a short break. So that was a great analogy, the sunburn analogy. Um, and I felt like it was pointing towards stressful situations, overwhelming situations, overstimulating situations, and great to find information in neurodiversity spaces which is also applicable to dogs, which is what I feel like so much of what we learn comes from so many different places, and it's applicable to our dogs as well. Which takes me to the next one, where there was conversation about, sorry, Zoe is whining in her sleep under the desk, which is kind of distracting. Okay, she's sleeping, and I don't know whom she's fighting with in her sleep, but we shall support her through a little bit of tactile because she likes it. Yeah. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about was this post, this reel by the radical, sorry, the virtual couch therapy on Instagram, and they had put up this idea that there is nothing called too needy. Have you been called too needy, or too, or have you felt like your dog is too needy, too much attention seeking, uh, too much, or have you been told you give your dog too much love, too much attention? So I found this post of the fact that, and this is, of course, again, the person who's posting this is talking about it in the context of humans, but I'll show you. We can talk about it from dog's point of view as well. She was talking about how there is nothing like too needy. So, and again, I'm paraphrasing this, and I'm talking to you about my interpretation of how I understood that, and how I think this works as well. That, let's say, this is your balance, right? Or this is your normal, or this is your, I feel so disoriented, this is your normal, this is your balance, right? Now you get dysregulated a little bit, right? Now your body wants to come back to normal, right? So you need something, whatever that something is, and this is how much you need it for your body to come back, right? So you are, this is your normal, this is your body's normal. You are dysregulated to this point, and so you need something to help you come back to normal, and that something is this much, right? Whatever that something might be, and that's how much you would need, right? She gave this example from the point of view of thirst, right? um, you're slightly thirsty, your normal is here, you're slightly thirsty and you need this much water to quench your thirst, right? You went a whole day without water, you need probably need a lot of water to come back to normal, right? You went 2 days without water, normal. You went a lot of time without water, you need a lot of water to just quench your thirst. She gave this example, if I remember correctly, and you can look at your neediness, or whatever you need, how much of whatever you need, maybe reassurance, maybe care, maybe break, maybe attention, maybe uh, whatever that might be, whatever you're feeling needy about, depending on how dysregulated you're feeling. And your dysregulation depends on how overwhelmed you feel, your surroundings, your environment, the situations that led up to it, how much break you've had between, if you're dysregulated, if this is your normal, you're slightly dysregulated and you got the time, the ability to get back to your regulation quickly. You don't need much, but you haven't had the time to come back to regulation, so you're dysregulated and more dysregulated and dysregulated, and now you need a lot more to come back to normalcy, bring your body back to normal. And I found that explanation and that analogy extremely amazing, because that's what happens with our dogs. Um, I feel like a lot of people tell your dog is too needy, they need a lot of reassurance. If I talk about the previous example of what's happening in the house with Lady Laddu and Zoe, someone would say, "Oh, your dog is so needy. They need a lot of reassurance. They're so dependent. Your dog is too dependent." But it is a matter of where their normal is, how off from normal they're feeling, how dysregulated they're feeling, and what they need to bring their body back to normal. And when you think about it in that manner, nothing is too needy. That is just the appropriate right amount of whatever that individual needs to feel like they can bring back their body to normal and balance. And I felt like that was amazing. And I felt like that also gives us an insight to the fact that you respect the individual who's dysregulated, and you know, you believe that they know that this is how much and what they need for themselves to get back to feeling regulated again, feeling normal again, feeling balanced again. And you listen to them what they need, and nobody can judge from the outside that what you need is too much, what you need is more than normal. You are being too needy, you're being too lazy, you're being too sensitive. Nothing like that. That individual needs that much to get back to normalcy, and they're doing exactly what they need to come back to balance. And if we can respect that individual and provide and facilitate situations and environments, and safety for them to get back to regulation, that can be so magical for them. And I felt like that was a great, yeah, I felt like that was a great analogy. That was a great way to explain this too neediness, because I feel like this judgment of too needy is coming from an outside perspective. For the individual feeling these feelings and going through this dysregulation space, this is exactly what their body needs. This is exactly what they need. For example, I was talking about how I was feeling very overwhelmed in the last week, 2 weeks, where I needed to take a step back from Social media, the dog palm is official professional social media. I have taken a step back, probably even on my personal social media. um, I have taken a lot of rest, and still I'm feeling a lot tired as well. But this is what my body needed. This is what I needed. I'm not being too lazy, too unprofessional. These are all labels that one can attach from their perspective for me, but I am doing what my body needs. I am doing what I exactly need, not too much, not too little. Um, so I felt like that was a great analogy. That was a great post. Again, a great person to follow on Instagram. I love sharing, references of people that I love following. I learn a lot from all of these people, and not a lot of. I mean, you don't need to learn these things only from a dog space, and that's quite interesting too. I have learned a lot from parenting, human parenting. I've learned a lot from neurodivergent spaces. I have learned a lot from feminist spaces. I've learned a lot from therapy and mental health spaces. So we can learn so much of these things anywhere, and I feel like there are some incredible people doing a great job on the internet. And as and when I find people I can refer you to, I think you should definitely go and check them out. So yeah, I think these were the conversations I wanted to have today. Any thoughts, any questions, any um, ideas? And I'm definitely tired. Of course, this was the other thing that I wanted to say. So Priyam, you can see her in the live chat, had come over. She's one of a very close friend. I call her bestie, and we tend to hang out like once a week at least. She stays close by. She comes over, and we tend to hang out, like spend 2 3 hours. Um, and that's my social interaction. That's all my social interaction, apart from like the time I spend with my husband or like my dogs. That's all I have in terms of social interaction. And this is a social interaction I love. This is how I choose to. I don't exit my house. I'm in my own space. She comes over. We tend to chat. We tend to talk about like a lot of things. We love, we have our chai in the evening and we just chat about everything. Um, but any kind of social interaction, and I'm sure Priyam will agree with me, is that even if it is something that we love, it can take away our um, social battery. Like it can take away uh, our charge. Like we can feel discharged after any kind of social interaction. This is a social interaction I absolutely love. Um, the reason why I'm sharing this is, again, with dogs there is a pressure to behave socially, and socially with everybody. It can be humans, it can be other dogs, other animals, at all times, multiple times a day, in all kind of environments. And I think that can be so much pressure on our dogs, because even a social interaction that one loves having can be overwhelming too. And some of us do need some break from that kind of a social interaction to come back again and then enjoy that social interaction again. But like putting our dogs repeatedly in social situations, if you heard that bark, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Lady is barking at Laddu entering the house, and my husband is trying to split them. um, But yes, I think that there's so much pressure on our dogs to be social and to enjoy all social interactions and not give them enough break, um, and also not allow the kind of social interaction they might enjoy. Um, and I think we need to kind of re-look at what we think about our dogs, when we say they are social, what we think about our dogs when we say that they need to have good social interaction. I heard Sindhu talk about it in one of her talks recently, and I think she made some great points about social interactions and how our dogs, like what we think our dog's social life needs to be like versus what they actually are, and what we can learn from observing, um, social interactions. um, couldn't agree more. It's undue pressure. Totally, we have to give our dogs and ourselves a choice to at least admit it. It's totally okay, doesn't mean we are antisocial. Yeah. I think all of us have such different social abilities and needs, and also the kind of social interaction that enriches us, the kind of social interaction that enriches us but is still overwhelming, the kind of interactions that are just draining, but we need to be in those situations. How do we tackle all of them? We tend to think about these things for ourselves. I think it's time we also do that for our dogs. What is I mean, I see this a lot, that we talk about humans as introverted, extroverted, ambiverted, but is that it? These are the only kinds of social beings we can be. I think there's so much variety even within humans in how we would like a social interaction, what it means for us. Is it one-on-one interaction? Is it a group interaction? Is it loud spaces? Is it quite homebody? Once in a month, once in 6 months, once a week, every day? What does it mean for us? And how does it leave us after these interactions, and what do we need to recharge our social battery? If we can think about these things for ourselves, I think it is quite valid for our dogs too, and we need to be able to think about these things as well. Apart from like social interactions with friends, it's also important to remember that humans tend to have social interactions with people we don't like as well. How do we have those interactions? How do we daily probably have interactions with people we don't like and don't end up harming each other? If How do we manage to do that? How do we have healthy conflicts? How do we have healthy disagreements? How do we have if I don't like a person, I don't need to be disrespectful towards them, I don't need to be harmful towards them. So humans tend to do that, and our dogs tend to do it too. But then why don't we allow for those spaces for our companion dogs? We see this a lot with street dogs, where they don't like certain dogs but still coexist. They don't like certain dogs, so they keep their distance. They don't go around killing each other at all the time. How do we allow for these kind of safe spaces for disagreements and conflicts, and these kind of social interactions as well? Why the need for only friendly interactions with dogs? How about unfriendly interactions? How can your dogs have unfriendly, tense interactions without being a risk to each other? I think these are some fair questions to ask and see how. I mean, I'm not saying that if your dog is a dog reactive dog, then go and then get them to meet another dog and see how they can have a healthy conflict. That's not what I'm saying. But it's fair to ask yourself the question, um, that yes, okay, my dog doesn't like the other dog. I don't need my dog to be friends with them. But how can I have my dog to just walk away from them without having to get into a massive reactive fight, where they are putting each other in danger? Worth asking. So it's not just friendly interactions, it's not just friendships and social interactions. It's also how do you have interactions with people you don't like, with individuals you don't like, with individuals you hate. It's worth thinking about these things. When we talk about it in human context, it kind of makes sense. Why not extend it for our dogs as well? So that was the other one. Uh, there was one more conversation that I wanted to have, but I'll reserve it for our next week. It's kind of in line with my conversation with Surabhi, hopefully in the coming week. Um, but I had this interesting case. Someone reached out to me um, for discovery call, and I'll probably share with you how that went and what I felt about it, and can be a little controversial. So I'll probably reserve it for the next live. Um, yeah. So I think that those are all the conversations I wanted to have today. Those are all the topics I want to touch upon today. Uh, I think it's safe to say that I have run out of my. Yeah, I'm on low battery right now. So I think I need to go and then recharge myself and come back with more energy the next week. But life is going to be overwhelming for the next few weeks. I have few more updates. I will give it to you when I am in a better position to share these things with you. Maybe in about a week, 10 days time, I guess. But till then, I have my research club happening on Sunday. So if you want to join the research club, just DM me on my Instagram or my Facebook, and I will add you to the group. And with that, I think those are all the conversations I wanted to have today. And thank you for joining in, for being here, for listening in. If you're listening it to me after the live has ended and you're listening to it at your own time, you know, share your thoughts, share what you took away from this. If you have any questions, follow up questions for me, share it with me and I will address that as well. um, Hope to see a collab with Surbi. Yeah, I mean, I think we're constantly like, um, so I was feeling like, I don't know whom to kind of collaborate with in the dog space outside of Bugs people. So you keep seeing only Bugs people, right? Like you see Anushri coming over on my live, you see Surabhi coming over, or I'm, chatting with them. It's very interesting to be in the space, but also sometimes it feels like we wish there were more people talking about the Barks way and talk about our dogs in this manner and have like very stimulating conversations about our dogs and their behavior and their lives in general. So yeah, hopefully there will be a collab with Surubi. I'll keep you updated. She'll keep you updated too. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for being here for the live. Thank you for listening in. If you have any questions, keep sharing it with me so that I can keep coming and addressing them in the live here. Um, and I will see you next week for sure, I guess. No, I'll see you next week and I'll keep you updated about it on my Instagram or on my Facebook. You can see that there. And I hope you have a great week ahead. And bye.